China is once again one of the central powers of the world. But this is not the first time. Across thousands of years, Chinese civilization has faced war, division, flood, and collapse. And still, it has found ways to rebuild. Why? The answer may begin along the Yellow River, in the landscapes where early China first took shape. What makes power disappear, and what makes it return? This story brings us to Linfan, one of the places where early Chinese civilization took shape. Linfan is in southern Shaanxi, beside the Fen River. Here, the Yellow River suddenly drops at Hukou, creating a powerful waterfall. Hukou is known as the world's largest yellow waterfall. Its force carved the canyon and became one of the strongest images of the Yellow River. Nearby, the Fen River moves more quietly and feeds the wide Linfan Basin. Here, dramatic rivers and stable farmland exist together. Water, protected terrain, and farmable soil made long-term settlement possible. In this landscape, early communities stopped moving constantly and began to build settled lives. From above, this region shows some of the early patterns that later shaped China. On Linfan's drum tower, 16 characters describe the city's old geographic importance. To the east, mountains formed a natural barrier. To the south, roads connected this area with Guangzhou and Sichuan. To the west, the Yellow River and Fen River were vital waterways. To the north, old routes led toward the frontier and linked it with the central plain. Linfen stood at the crossroads of rivers, mountains, roads, farmland, and people. For thousands of years, history grew here layer by layer. This is one of the root areas of early Chinese civilization. In the morning, Linfan looks like an ordinary city waking up, but its daily life stands on a very long history of settlement. On this yellow earth, people settled, farmed, raised families, and connected the idea of home with the land. But when did this stable way of life begin? The Fen River passes by Dingsuan, a village south of Shangfen. Today, Dingsuan is known for its Ming and Qing dynasty courtyards, but ancient tools and human fossils found here pushed the history of this land much further back. Hundreds of thousands of years ago, early humans came to the southern edge of the Linfen Basin. Water, animals, and stable terrain made this a place where they could stay. They shaped hard stone into cutting tools through repeated strikes. These tools helped them cut meat, dig for roots, and survive. The people who left these traces are now known as the Dingsuan people. More than 4,000 years ago, people around Dingsuan began to develop textile skills. After cotton spread here in the Ming Dynasty, families along the Fen River grew cotton and wove cloth for generations. In old workshops today, craftspeople still use looms to turn thread into pattern fabric. From cotton to cloth, the process involves 72 steps, each shaped by experience passed down over time. Dingsuan preserves a long human path, from adapting to nature to making tools to shaping daily life by hand. As settlements grew, people had to solve new problems. When to plant, how to store food, and how to live together. They needed rules for farming, sharing resources, and settling disputes. One early answer to these problems lies beneath the land later known as Yaodu, the capital of Yao. About 4,300 years ago, a large rammed earth city appeared east of the Fen River. The Taosi site shows one of China's earliest known urban layouts. In prehistoric society, understanding time meant organizing farming and social life. At Taosi, people used gaps between earth pillars to observe sunrise and mark the seasons. In early civilization, the people who understood time could organize society. In Chinese tradition, this memory is connected with Yao. Yao is remembered as one of the legendary 5 emperors. His capital was Pingyang, today's Linfen. But Yao's importance was not only about the capital city. He became a model of responsible leadership. The stories say that if people were hungry or cold, Yao could not eat or rest in comfort. Records describe him living simply, eating plain food, and placing people's needs at the center of rule. That image of leadership was unusual for its time. He is also said to have allowed people to write criticism on a public wooden post, an early form of the Wabia column, a ceremonial pillar later placed before palaces and important buildings. Flood control also became central in the age of Yao and Yu, as the Yellow River repeatedly threatened people's lives. Yao is remembered for linking power with responsibility and order with moral duty. Later, he passed power to Shun, a man outside his family who was remembered for his virtue. To honor Yao, Lin Fang built the Temple of Yao, where people have paid respect for centuries. Inside the Temple of Yao is a well traditionally known as China's first well. Before wells, people lived along rivers. Water supported life, but it also limited where people could live. Legend says Yao found underground water by following ants and then dug a well. The well changed the relationship between people and land. People no longer had to move constantly for water. Around wells, villages formed and gradually became towns and cities. People gathered by wells to trade, talk, and organize daily life. Over time, this helped form the idea of the marketplace. In Chinese, leaving one's well and village became a deep expression for leaving home. On the central path of the Temple of Yao, dragons and phoenixes are carved into stone. These images became important symbols of early Chinese culture, ritual, and authority. The dragon gradually moved from a local spiritual symbol to a wider cultural symbol across the Central Plain. A dragon carving in the temple is based on a painted pottery plate unearthed at Taosi in 1978. The plate shows one of the earliest mature dragon images known from the Central Plain. It is often referred to as China's first dragon. The grain in the dragon's mouth connects authority with farming and people's livelihood. This was an early stage in the dragon's transformation into a broader symbol of Chinese identity. To understand Shaanxi, one must understand Jin, an ancient state whose name still represents Shaanxi today. And to understand Jin, one must return to Linfen. For centuries, the state of Jin rose here. As one of the major powers of ancient China, its strength came from land, armies, rituals, alliances, and a strict political order. In Jin, politics was shaped not only by weapons, but also by formal language, ritual rules, and bronze inscriptions. But great prosperity can also hide deep internal tensions. Over time, the ruling house of Jin weakened, while powerful noble families gained land, armies, and wealth. These families gradually held the real power of the state. For more than a century, they competed over territory, resources, and control of Jin's future. In the end, Jin was divided among Han, Zhao, and Wei. An old order based on lineage and ritual broke apart. The Warring States period followed, bringing more than 2 centuries of conflict and transformation. In 221 BCE, Qin Shi Huang ended the wars among the states and unified China for the first time. But beyond survival and order, people still searched for meaning and comfort. Shaanxi stood at the meeting point, between farming and steppe cultures, and between the central plain and routes leading west. This made the region open to exchange, but also exposed it to conflict and instability. Dynastic change, war, and migration made people look for spiritual support beyond daily life. From the Han Dynasty onward, Buddhism entered this region through trade routes and old roads connected with the Silk Road. People used wood, earth, minerals, and craft to build temples and images that gave form to belief. Over centuries, this left Shaanxi with an extraordinary number of historic buildings above ground. Today, it preserves more surviving ancient buildings than any other province in China. Tifo Temple in Linfan was once one of the tallest and most visible buildings in Old Pingyang. There was a local saying the golden-topped pagoda was only 3 feet 8 from the sky. Its fame is tied to a legend known as the Flying Buddha Head. According to the story, an iron Buddha head broke away from its body, flew across the Yellow River, and landed in Pingyang. People built a temple and pagoda to house it. The iron head is 6.8 meters high and weighs about 15 tons. It is one of the earliest and largest surviving iron Buddha heads in China. In 1695, a major earthquake destroyed much of the old temple. It was rebuilt decades later. Local stories say the pagoda once had a golden top, which later disappeared and was replaced by a bronze one. Today, the Buddha head is still kept inside the pagoda, decorated with yellow and green glazed reliefs. In the mountains of Shi County, southwest of Linfan, Zhao Shi Tian Temple sits on a peak that local legend compares to a phoenix. The true value of Jiaoxi Tian lies inside the hole, where one of China's great suspended sculpture groups is preserved. Inside are more than 1,900 painted Ming Dynasty figures, from large central statues to figures small enough to fit in a hand. After 400 years, many colors remain bright, giving rise to legends about a dust-repelling pearl hidden inside the hole. Xi County is also known for its crisp, fragrant pears, grown in soft, loess soil.
水分大，甜度高，这是隰县的特产，就是可惜知道的人还不够多。
这是个真梨，
看着啊，
对吧？它直接一捏就是这，
看到吗？真流玉露，不是那个网上卖的那个橙子里边接一根水管滋出来的水，这个是真的是汁水特别多。隰县呢特产，但是现在知名度还没有库尔勒梨高，但是这个梨玉露香梨确实是好吃啊。然后刚才我跟这个本地的这个小哥哥，我们在这儿聊这个梨呢，他以前跑大车的，但是上岁数了，结婚生娃了。外边跑，一是老得离开家，二是这个比较跑大车嘛，风险比较大。这回家自己在这种梨，在自己家里弄个有大棚是吧？
对，有几个棚，
有棚，然后弄了这个积木地。
咱果树有10几亩
，10几亩地。虽然还没有精美的包装，但是他自己家种的，从地里这个弄的，一年就出这一起儿，一年就一季，他一年就忙活这点梨。好嘞，来2箱玉露香梨，支持隰县的这个特产啊，支持一下。
But here, pears are rarely split and shared because local memory connects them with separation. Fenchang is an ordinary town in Shangfang County, but its history reaches back to the Warring States, Han, and Wei periods. In Shaanxi, old sites often show how life, death, people, and objects keep changing across time. In the early Tang dynasty, this place was the fief of the general Yu Qigong. Later, it became Taiping County. After 2,000 years of building, many historic structures from different periods remain here. But on this land, one kind of separation became part of the shared memory of many Chinese families. Its sense of longing has lasted for more than 6 centuries. From the Hongwu to Yongle reigns of the Ming dynasty, Large-scale migrations were organized over about 50 years. People left Shaanxi and moved to many parts of northern, central, and eastern China. This migration did not happen by chance. War, Yellow River floods, and epidemics had badly damaged many areas outside southern Shaanxi. Farmland needed people again, so the early Ming government began moving people from crowded Shaanxi to places that had been emptied. Hongtong's great scholar tree became one of the key gathering points. Hongtong stood on important transport routes. Officials registered families, issued documents, and organized migrants there. People from crowded parts of Shaanxi were sent to areas emptied by war and disaster. They gathered here, said goodbye, and left for new homes. A government transfer point became, in family memory, the last image of the old home. "600 years later, the details are less clear. But the words great scholarly still carry a powerful meaning for ancestry and migration. Many folk stories grew from this migration. One story says migrants were tied together to stop them from running away. When they needed to relieve themselves, they had to ask to have their hands untied. Over time, that request became a common expression for using the toilet. Another story says officials marked people's little toenails, which is why a split little toenail became a sign of descent from the great scholarly migrants. These stories were passed down orally and became clues for families searching for their roots. The migration changed China. Land was reclaimed, villages were rebuilt, populations recovered, and Shaanxi customs spread with the migrants. This land holds stories of separation, but also stories of reunion. This prison was first built in the early Ming Dynasty and has stood here for more than 600 years. The cells were extremely small, often holding 8 or 9 prisoners in only a few square meters. With no room to lie down, they had to sit or crouch. This gave rise to local expressions for being imprisoned. Under the eaves, bells were attached to nets to warn guards if anyone tried to escape. The walls were even more secure, built high, thick, and filled with loose sand. Inside this tightly controlled space, prisoners of many kinds were held.
这儿是一口井，这口井我们称它13井，是因为
There is an old well here called the Su San Well, its rope marks worn into the stone. During the Ming Dynasty, a woman named Su San was imprisoned here. She had been orphaned young, trafficked to the capital, and later sold to a merchant in Hongtown. After helping a scholar she loved return home. In Hongtown, she was framed for murder after the merchant's wife killed her husband. After 10 months in prison, the scholar she once helped became an official, reopened the case, and cleared her name. The prison has since been known as Su San Prison. Her story reflects a long popular hope for justice, kindness, and reunion. On the streets of Hongtown, many shops are simple and direct. That plainness also feels like part of the local character.
简单粗暴，就是俩字儿早点。简单粗暴，看就俩字儿油漆。
哪俩有好吃的有来的？就拿丸子汤就可以。有那联系啊。丸子汤咱自己家里做的。
Bogao is a local fried stuffed pancake that has been eaten in Hongtong for centuries. Leeks, glass noodles, eggs, and lotus root are wrapped in dough and slowly fried on an iron griddle.
尝尝这锅糕啊，第一次吃。
啊，好吃。
我感觉里边有点像那个馅儿盒子。
对对对，用那个倒点醋。
嗯。
过洗。
啊。
又打滚了，这不是粉丝已经。
大叔在这做了好多年了。
啊，第二代人，到我们这是第三代。
大叔都80多岁了，是吧
84
岁了。
At Hongtong banquets, steamed millet rice is an important dish.
这是小米。
熟米。
哦，熟米。
啊，对，那是一块猪脑啊。
Before migrants left the Great Scholar Tree, people cooked millet, red dates, and beans into soft golden rice to honor ancestors and say goodbye.
《柱子里边裹的都是木头，这房子都100多年了。民坟是洪洞县最老的房子，都在这儿呢。
For descendants of those migrants, this bowl of rice became a warm link between homeland and distance. From the Loess Plateau to the Fen River Valley, this land also developed a distinct food culture. Dry air, clear seasons, and suitable farmland made wheat easy to grow and store. For generations, people in Linfang turned wheat into many kinds of noodles and flour-based foods.
哦，特色流汤啊。
Hola noodles were once made with a wooden press that required the strength of several people.
我都闻见辣椒的香味儿了。
As the noodles fell into boiling water, they looked like small streams. So people once called them holo, a name linked to the image of flowing water. Over time, the pronunciation changed into today's hola, and the making process became much simpler.
小时候我妈妈我们都是加过衣服的，这个是我后来就是学校毕了业以后学的这个手艺。
In skilled hands, dough can take many forms, including jishan maha, a twisted fried dough snack.
香的都是那面香。
对，它主要是没有化学东西，它就是最传统的。因为我们小时候家家户户都做，过年时候都做。
这手速太快了。
哎。
An experienced maker can produce thousands in a day using a method passed down for over 1,000 years.
这是最传统的、最古老的锅了，他们现在都用成电锅了，没有人用这个。我90年学的，94年自己就开始制锅子了。我们那批人都从临河都撤走了，因为后来太多了，你知道吧？
Through long adaptation, jishan maha became one of southern Shaanxi's distinctive flavors. In Linfan, noodles are shaped in many ways and given many names. Some names come directly from how the noodles look. A wide, thin strip of dough with rounded ends looks like a tongue, so locals call it dog tongue. Another noodle is rubbed across a perforated metal plate, forming small, curled pieces known locally as sagudo. Because it was simple and often made with coarse grains, it survived through difficult times and remains a common meal today.
一般都加什么呀？
有麻花、金针菇、豆皮这些。
最经典的要加什么呀？
就是咱们的特色麻花。
能加麻花肯定。
对。
Some noodles begin with broth. Beef bones are boiled for a deep base, and alkaline noodles stay firm in the hot soup. Meatballs and tofu skin absorb the broth and make the flavor stronger. This style became popular in the city in the 1970s and is now known as Linfen meatball noodles. Fuxin, a small county in southern Linfan, is known for its xiaomei. The wrappers are made with hot water dough, folded at the top like a flower, filled with meat and steamed. In the Qing dynasty, this local Xiao Mai became more widely known through stories linked to Emperor Qianlong. It is often served with a simple hot soup, cold tona, a name linked to nourishing the head and body. Its origin goes back to the late Ming and early Qing. Local healers made it with fried flour, lamb, lotus root, yellow rice, wine, and medicinal ingredients, because it was believed to warm the body and support fertility. People gave it the name Tu Nao. Over time, it became a winter comfort food. Some flour foods are also eaten cold. In Xi County, one old shop still keeps this tradition.
叫碗秃啊还是碗托啊？秃嘛，那秃是哦，碗秃，我听说啊。我想都尝尝呢，都尝尝。对，
它的价格又不贵，因为总共4样，一样一个你就全吃了。
这个叫什么做法？这个？
这个是碗托嘛。
Buckwheat flour is mixed into a paste, steamed in a bowl, cooled, removed, and sliced. Because it keeps the shape of the bowl. Locals call it 1-2, meaning coming out of the bowl. Its origin is linked to wartime stories from the Western Jin period. Soldiers once cooked buckwheat into a simple porridge. When they returned, it had cooled and set. By accident, it became firm enough to slice. With seasoning added, this practical wartime food was passed down and slowly became the 1-2 known today.
那里边什么汤啊？
卤汁儿，
卤汁儿。
对，当地特色，哪一个地方的来了，他都能吃得惯，是大众口味。
临汾有没有这个？
我们就在西县能吃得惯。生粉在我们西县有1000多年的历史。
这个也好吃，这个有芥末味。
In Linfen, flour is more than food. It can also become a form of folk art. In southern Shaanxi, decorative steamed buns are made for births, birthdays, and major family events. Over time, Linfen's flour foods developed into a system of shapes, meanings, wishes, and family emotions. Southern Shaanxi has cold winters, so people developed warm foods built around fire, pots, broth, lamb, and wheat. Copper hot pot became one of the region's most comforting winter foods. Its rise was connected with busy trade routes in the Ming and Qing dynasties, which brought new cookware and food habits into the region. Meatballs, roasted meat, tofu, and noodles are layered in the copper pot and slowly cooked over charcoal.
这是什么意思啊？
他家卖泡的。
卖炮，然后
我卖火的产区，这边就是华国的产区，西北五省批发车站批发。
哦，
他是我老公。
哦，有2口子，哦，不同的业务。
Clay pots are among the oldest cooking vessels in this region, with traditions linked to Yichang in Linfang.
感觉你这砂锅在临汾挺出名的，
还行。
是因为临汾人喜欢吃砂锅啊。
是现在的人讲究是什么呢？吃饭改变了，不想吃大油大油。
Ancient people boiled water in pottery. Today, Linfen families still use clay pots to cook slow warming meals. Across 5,000 years, the craft has continued, and the warmth in the pot has remained.
这是烩菜哦，里边啥都有，最少10几种。
For many locals, clay pot dishes are an ordinary but essential winter comfort.
还行吧。
好吃，好吃。来个小碗肉，再来个大碗肉。
Linfen's lamb soup can be traced back more than 1,000 years to the Northern Wei period. Linfan lies where farming culture met nomadic culture. Lamb, once strongly tied to the northern steppe, gradually became part of everyday street food here. Linfen's food comes from ancient farming life, but modern industry also brought new flavors. Guo Shao chicken is a traditional fried chicken dish from Shandong. It likely came to Linfan with workers who arrived during the construction of the Linfan steel plant in the 1950s.
我比较喜欢这个临汾特色，特别符合我的胃口。
Over time, it became part of local life. But for many people, the skewers near the steel plant carry an even stronger memory.
临钢串儿是源于本地临汾钢铁厂街边小吃。哦，这里面什么都有，我看。
那你妈这经常跑这套嘛？啊？
Lingang, short for Linfan Steel, once played a major role in the city's industrial life. In the 1950s, a steel town rose here. Some workers later moved away, and some stayed. The Lingang morning market remained and became part of Linfan's everyday identity.
来个豆腐菜。
辣椒、香菜、葱。
啊，都要。葱花饼。葱花饼吧。
葱花，7块钱一斤，那个称斤点的。葱花烙饼、鸡蛋饼、豆腐菜。正好人家
那就要葱花饼吧。
切的时候拍你那个。
夏季令，面干不动，
干不动。
紧的。
你这今天干到几点啊？
我这干到昨天9点多10点就完了，5点多就来了。
山河四省都差不多，早晨吃到点早。
对。
3点多起来。
干了多少年了，姐
？25年吧。
25年。
啊。
都在临港早市吗？
啊，对。
这是不是临汾人儿时的记忆啊？
有的往家上学，然后他长大，他娶媳妇，他生好娃了，娃还吃了。
带着娃吃来。
哎，对，就是临港这一片的。
临港还有人吗？临港不是搬太原的，搬走了。
搬了，还有
一部分人。这是啥呀？
豆腐菜嘛。
豆腐菜。
豆腐粉条。
小菜特别好吃，多来点。
你们辣椒香菜汤都要吗？
都要，大哥。
好了，麻烦你端一下。
好。
The market still carries the atmosphere of that industrial era. Tofu stew and scallion pancakes are among its best-known breakfasts. It also carries the childhood food memories of the steel plant workers and of the generations who grew up after them.
叫卖声，小孩的，还有旁边小学的做广播体操的声音。3河4省人民的一天就开始了，早市的这个老百姓的这个人间烟火气就在这儿了。
Children who once came here with their parents now bring their own children to eat the same food. They are passing on not just the same taste, but also the memory of how this city was built. Beyond the noise of the market, Linfan continues to change. A city is more than buildings and crowds. It is people with different roles, working within the same daily order. Some become wealthy, others fall into hardship. Hope and struggle exist side by side, and together, they keep the city moving forward. A good city also sees the individual lives beneath its streets and buildings. Linfan does not have many skyscrapers, but it often shows care in small details of daily life. After the industrial boom faded, Linfan began to change in quieter and more practical ways. Public transport moves through the city, connecting people with their homes, work, and daily routines. Linfan also became known for its public toilets. Clean, open facilities across the city earned it the nickname China's Toilet City.
这临汾这公共公厕啊，不是有获奖的吗？然后，那个公厕旁边还都有那什么，感觉那个雕塑啊，这个文创啊，感觉那个艺术那东西是吧？然后还有一个特点，我发现就是每个厕所门口都有个对联儿，有个对联儿。然后我刚才到这个公共厕所门口，因为我一路过这厕所呢，我就下意识的念那个对联儿。然后这个门口有一个对联写着“百姓方便乃真理”。然后但是我第一次看的时候，我看成了“百姓大便是真理”。我说这对联接地气啊。
Through this public toilet improvement, Linfan turned an overlooked part of city life into a measure of urban dignity. Everyday life continues. Sunlight in the streets, lights on the way home, people working, and families returning to their own warmth. This may be what a city should look like, but more than 80 years ago, this land faced war. West of the Fen River, near the eastern bank of the Yellow River, a Loess ridge still holds traces of resistance. This place was once called Nanswempo, or South Village Slope. During China's war against Japanese invasion, Yanshi Shan moved the Second War Zone headquarters here. Because the name sounded close to heart to survive, it was renamed Kunanpo, meaning the slope of overcoming hardship. After 1940, this small ridge, once home to only 6 families, held more than 20,000 people. Caves, rooms, offices, and residences were connected by a network of secret tunnels.
地道里的警卫室就在这里边，看这里边也四通八达的。
From these cave dwellings, military orders were sent across the Yellow River region during the War of Resistance. On this yellow earth, Chinese forces stood together to resist the invasion, to defend the Yellow River, and to protect their nation. The slope of overcoming hardship became a symbol of endurance in a dark time. The Yellow River is often called the Mother River of Chinese civilization. At Hukou, the river carries heavy sediment. That mineral-rich loess helped early farmers support large communities before the Bronze Age. Agriculture here depended partly on climate and partly on the river, encouraging careful farming and respect for soil. But the Yellow River also brought danger. It gave life, and it could destroy. For generations, controlling the river became one of the greatest public tasks in Chinese history. Floods and changing river courses forced communities to cooperate and live with a constant awareness of risk. Looking back along the Yellow River, the early outline of Chinese civilization becomes clearer. From survival and settlement to villages, cities, calendars, and shared urban life, Linfen preserves an unusually complete chain of early civilization. Here, people learned to live with the land, organize society, create tools and traditions. and pass skills and feelings from one generation to the next. Linfin's meaning is found not only in temples and legends, but also in ordinary streets, food, work, and family life. Its character is creativity, practical wisdom, inheritance, construction, and a quiet care for better living. And in this everyday life, the story of early Chinese civilization continues to live on.